Hi guys, European workers in care homes back in 2020, as the UK was leaving the European Union, was a total of 8%. But while that number seems small, it could reach levels of about 30% in some parts of the country, particularly in the southeast of England. When freedom of movement ended after Brexit, it meant a sector that has a 50% turnover a year seeing significant vacancies. Now, the Brexiteer plan to keep out foreigners worked, but it has left both the NHS and care homes struggling to find staff. Low pay and poor working conditions have made life for these employees difficult, and it seems the Tory government has broken an unwritten rule and started reaching out to foreign countries, this time outside the EU, for staff.
Care home staff shortages are partly to blame, prompting ministers today to admit they've been looking into a foreign hiring spree to plug some of the 160,000 vacancies.
It isn't the easiest option, it's not the cheapest option, and sometimes you have to think very carefully. It's quite expensive becoming a sponsor, getting those visas in, and it's time consuming because it doesn't happen overnight.
So this is an extra level of paperwork, expensive paperwork, as a result of Brexit. Because where does this problem stem from? It stems from the ending of freedom of movement. In the past, care homes, the NHS were able to bring in staff from abroad, from the European Union, without really any problems. You'd advertise a job and staff would turn up pretty much. You check their credentials, check their paperwork, and everything will be fine. But now, if you want to bring staff in, they need to have a visa, and in one part of issuing a visa is to have a sponsor. And this is a cost for small enterprises and, for example, care homes. And a lot of these care homes operate on very narrow margins. So this extra cost is not something that they're relishing the idea of. And add in, of course, the cost of living crisis. But they need staff. And as the government have made it more difficult to bring people in, they're starting now to realize that they have to do something. And I've talked about this before, for example, in farming and in hospitality, how these sectors are doing whatever they can to put pressure on the government to do something about it. Government ministers and departments are trying to escalate it, of course, to the Home Office, because it's the Home Office that will decide about what type of visas are issued and how many are issued. And the problem has always been that the Home Office has been dragging its feet. Now something has changed, it seems, but it's still too little too late. And what's happening now is this is having a knock-on effect in the NHS itself. And you're starting to see people waiting for hours for ambulances to arrive. Now, what's this got to do with care? What happens is people in care homes, if people are not going into care homes because there isn't a space, they stay in hospital. They stay in a bed in hospital. That means that there isn't a bed available for somebody who needs it. That person has to be treated by the NHS, so they end up being treated in a corridor, in an ambulance, in A&E. And if the ambulances are being blocked, are being used to treat people in, that means that they're not available to go out and pick people up if they have an accident or some sort of problem. So this stems from an approach at the Home Office regarding freedom of movement. And Priti Patel celebrated the ending of freedom of movement some years ago at the Tory party conference, smirking about how freedom of movement has been removed. And she was met with applause. And this is the consequence. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.